I've said about Freddie Gray, many of y'all have heard my videos concerning Freddie Gray. I said that these officers were dispatched to a high crime, heavy drug area. In that Mr. Gray, upon seeing these officers, ran. And those officers gave chase as they're supposed to. A knife was found on Mr. Gray, which to me, once you find a piece of contraband like that, it is your duty to put cuffs on them. You owe it not only to protect yourself, but you owe it to officers. Many people wonder why when perps are shot and the officer he can know in his mind or her mind that perp is dead. You still cuff them. And you're not legally responsible. You're not legally authorized, rather. You don't have the credentials to declare someone DOA as a police officer. You're not giving that authority. Only someone who can legally, in a medical profession or someone like that, can legally declare someone dead. I don't care if you take them all the way. I mean, you obviously can see that there's no life, but you're not allowed, you're not authorized to label someone dead. And many people, the public, don't understand the duties and the authorities of law enforcement. You know, these are the same people who say, well, you give warning shots. Police, LEOs don't give warning shots. And in this predatory litigated society we live in, it would behoove you to give a warning shot, because the perp could then say, well, he shot me. And the first thing's going to happen is the prosecutor's office is going to say, well, Officer Painless, where in the training manual does it say you are supposed to give warning shots? Is that part of your training, Officer Painless? And no, that's not part of your training, because any type of LEO, law enforcement agency or organization, they are taught to shoot to kill. There's no warning shots. This is exactly what I said about the Marissa Alexander case. She would have she probably would have came out better, or have really sidestepped a lot of the turmoil she went through if she had shot her husband. But she sent warning shots, thus putting her husband in danger and others in danger. She would have probably fared better if she actually shot him. So, you know, people are not understanding the training, the culture of police. Why arrest him? I said this about the Eric Garner situation. People said, well, Painless, it was only some measly cigarettes. It was a couple loose packs of cigarettes. Police killed that man, that black man, over cigarettes. Well, my question was next, well, if it was so petty, as you claim, not I, if it was so petty and small that the police were tripping, why did Mr. Garner act in such a fashion? I mean, I would have took the pinch. Okay, officer, take me down to the precinct. I'll take the pinch. The burden of proof was on you to show that I was illegally trafficking or selling cigarettes. No, we know what went down. We know how Mr. Garner reacted. I'm not going to get into that. But there's some similarities in how Mr. Gray reacted. And I said that people laughed at me and said all this stuff. I said that Mr. Gray killed his own self by his resisting, by his tantrums he was throwing in the back of that paddy wagon, which, you know, unfortunately caused his death. Now there are issues that's probably going to come up in these other cases around in the Freddie Gray trials excuse me, should they have legally, or was there some responsibility in how they transported Mr. Gray? Should he have been buckled up? Is it police procedure? And I would think that it is police procedure to buckle a perp up for this very reason. And it's unfortunate and it's sad that you have to treat adults this way, that they can't just sit in the back of the paddy wagon and accept their fate. But those, I think they were authorized and charged and trained in doing it. You know, it goes both ways. If you're trained, if you know, it's sad that you have to hold adults by the hand, but if you're training and, if you're charged to strap in perp suspects, whatever have you, in a responsible, safe manner, then you must do that as well. Police must do that. And I think that's what the prosecutor's office is going to really attack. Did these officers properly strap down Mr. Gray? But it doesn't take away from why Mr. Gray was arrested. And that's the problem liberals don't understand. That this, and many black leaders and activists don't understand. This man was selling dope. And since many of these activists want to take it on a racial, social level, I can put it in that lap, or I can put it back in your lap as well. He was selling dope to black people. See, you're not going to hear that from the law enforcement community or anything like that. You'll hear that from the activist, political, social, community or that sector. But since I'm not the one, I can say this. He sold dope to black people. He ran from police when they saw him. They were there, those police officers were there because of people like Freddie Gray. You always hear, well, cops don't act this way in white neighborhoods. Well, you know what? And this is not what you're going to hear from the law enforcement community, but I'm going to tell you. White communities are relatively safe in comparison to black communities. There's no reason rather, for police to act the way in which they do in a white community. You respond to the environment you're in. And it just happens to be, unfortunately, that black communities, let's not pussyfoot around this. It's unfortunate that many black communities are strife with and ripe with violence, drugs, crime, all types of stuff in comparison to other neighborhoods across this country. And that when police officers go into these communities, they need to be on full high alert. And that's what happens. This is why police officers, I believe, they must flip on that switch. Because it can be life or death. Now, the laws should be administered evenly across the board. I don't care if someone's shot on your block every day. Those people in said community, I don't care how ridiculous the level of violence, everybody should be treated the same in terms of rights and liberties. Now that's something else. But you can't deny that police officers, when they go into certain areas, there's a survival switch or factor that kicks in. It's only natural. We relax in places, we feel comfortable, we perceive less of a threat, and we're on high alert when we know we're in an area where possible harm can come upon us or our comrades or our partners, that's just natural. It has nothing to do with race. It just so happens that you have to be on high alert when you're in a lot of black neighborhoods. I'm pretty sure white black cops in Boston, in Southie, around a bunch of white Irish guys, are on high alert because the southeast section of Boston is pretty rough. So it's not about color, it's about environment. But you know, the social activists, the protesters, love to make it about race. And since the law enforcement community is not going to say what's obvious, I'll say it. And I believe Officer Nero should have been acquitted. I believe all these officers should be acquitted. And that's just that.